Hi friends, the new Nemesis weapon that dropped in Apex Legends Season 16 seems to be everywhere right now, but there are definitely some people that still prefer the trusty R301 or Flatline in Apex Legends. So I'm going to do a comparison in today's video between the Nemesis, the R301 and the Flatline to see which is the best weapon in Apex Legends, and I've got the stats and figures to show you exactly which one is. A few things to start about with the Nemesis, just in case you don't know, it's a 4-burst auto assault rifle, which means you can hold down your fire button and it'll keep shooting, unlike the other burst weapons where you keep having to feather your fire button. You can see the damage breakdown here for the Nemesis. Your standard body shot's 17 damage, the headshots are 30 damage, and a leg shot is 13. Obviously fortified and with helmet slightly tweaks those base figures. Ultimately you can see what this means in terms of the number of bullets it takes to kill an enemy, and it ranges from 4 to 21. And obviously it's a burst weapon, so technically 4 bullets could just mean 1 burst, although you're not always guaranteed to hit your full burst of 4 bullets. Anyway, just to help show this, I've put this second table together which shows you if you're using burst fire, how many burst fire shots it would take to kill an enemy. And clearly you can see it's really powerful if you are able to hit a full burst shot on someone that's fairly weak without any shields. You can see 1 full burst shot is enough to down an enemy with a broken shield and a level 1 helmet. But how do these Nemesis stats compare to the other assault rifles in Apex Legends? Well, let's have a look at the other floor loot assault rifles for Apex Legends Season 16. And if I bring them together, you can see there are a lot of numbers here, but if I summarize it for you, essentially you can see the number of bullets it takes to kill, and if you look across each of the weapons, there's 4 here because there's 4 floor loot assault rifles in Season 16, they're actually fairly even. They all take at least 4 bullets to hit as a minimum to kill the weakest of enemies. Given we now drop with a level 1 helmet and Evo shield though, it essentially means it would take you 9 shots on all weapons, apart from the R301 which would take 12 shots. Now the reason the R301 is slightly lower is because it did receive a damage nerf this season, which you might be aware of, and that means it takes a few extra bullets on the R301 compared to the other assault rifles. However, the patterns are fairly consistent if you look across the body shots or the headshots. In essence, there just isn't much difference between each of the assault rifles in terms of the number of shots it takes to kill an enemy. There is some greater variances in other factors like time to kill though, so let's have a look at those stats and see how the Nemesis compares against the R301 and the Flatline. For that, I've put together this table. At the top there you can see the mag size. The mag size of the Nemesis and the Flatline are both 20, which give it a slightly bigger base magazine compared to the R301 which has an 18 base. In terms of the fire rate, which is covered by RPM, that's rounds per minute, the Nemesis gives 637 rounds per minute, up to 692 rounds per minute when it's charged up to 100%. The R301 is faster at 810 RPM, and obviously the Flatline's a lot slower at 600 RPM. So the Nemesis is kind of in the middle but closer to the Flatline in terms of the fire rate, and the R301 is the standout weapon in terms of the assault rifles in terms of fire rate, because it kicks out more bullets per minute. In terms of the DPS, the Nemesis is the best out of the 3. You can see its base non-charged has a DPS of 180 up to 196 when it is charged up to 100%. The Flatline on the other hand has a DPS of 180 and the R301 has a DPS of 176. Interestingly, before the nerf, the R301's DPS was at 189, which was definitely much closer to a charged up Nemesis than it is now. If we look at the TTK in the next row, you can also see how the R301's been affected because it drops to 1.1, which is joint with the Flatline. The Nemesis actually has a better time to kill them both at 0.92. If we also look at the damage per bullet, you can see the single damage per body shot, the Flatline has the highest damage per bullet, followed up by the Nemesis and then the R301 obviously. So overall, in terms of DPS and TTK, looking at this table, you can see the Nemesis is numerically better than the Flatline and the R301, but the R301 does have the faster fire rate, while the Flatline outputs the highest damage per magazine. In fact, in terms of TTK, the Nemesis is now the second best gun in the whole game, only behind the R99, which has a TTK of 0.89 compared to the 0.92 of the Nemesis. For fire rate, the R301 is the 3rd fastest in the game, only behind the R99 and CAR. So essentially your decision when trying to decide what's the best assault rifle in Apex Legends Season 16 is to consider, do you want a fairly good damage and a fairly good speed, something in the middle, that's what the Nemesis is good for, or you could have something a little bit faster but maybe not quite as much damage, then you've got the R301, or you could have the Flatline if you want to focus more on damage and you're not too worried about the fire rate. Of course, you might also want to consider recoil. Now this part's more down to personal preference. Some might say the R301 has the simplest recoil, although the Nemesis does bunch the shots together quite nicely, so if you're struggling to control vertical recoil, then the Nemesis might be the gun for you. So that's how you can decide what's the best assault rifle for you. Have a look at the figures and the numbers in this video and try and decide which recoil pattern you prefer the most. Hopefully this helps. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you later.